Welcome back to Beyond the Bushels. Today we're in central Iowa to visit with Josh Carlson, a fifth-generation farmer who's working side by side with his dad and brother. He talks about growing up in the hog barns, learning from his mistakes, and what it really takes to keep a family farm moving forward. Tricked you, man. You're going to come on here and teach people whether or not they should apply fungicide. How's everything going with you?
Busy, it seems like. This week's our county fair, so I got help with the hog show this week. And so we've been getting some stuff ready for that and trying to spray a bunch of fungicides and keep the sprayer rolling. Always something.
You guys are spraying fungicide already. I work from home, so I don't get out.
Yeah. We've been spraying some fungicides and insecticides on the seed corn, and Dad's just really getting started on the commercial corn, which some of the commercial corn's already tasseled. We usually can try and get it on before it tassels so that we don't have to clean so much when we go to seed corn. But the way the weather's been and the rains we've kept getting, it's just one of them times where it's like you do what you can. So,
Do you guys do a lot of seed corn?
yeah, we've got a good amount of seed corn that we got.
I like to start off by asking who Josh is, not necessarily around the farm, who you are as a person, what you enjoy doing outside the farm.
Yep, my name is Josh Carlson. I grew up in a town called Gowrie, Iowa. It'd be kind of north central Iowa, just 30 minutes south of Fort Dodge. Things I like to do for fun, go snowboarding, play basketball, do a little bit of running, a little bit of fitness. God's a pretty big part of my life. Let's see what else. I enjoy farming, as that's why I'm on this podcast. But no, those are just some things that I really like to do and enjoy.
I'm a seasonal runner, so I'm training for my third half marathon. First year, I had an accident right before, and last year I got sick the night before. I'm like, I can't miss it 2 years in a row. So I powered through it, made a lot of stops along the way, but I powered through it. This year, man, I'm hammering down.
Heck yeah.
What kind of running do you do? Burn some stress or?
A little bit of that, but I don't know. I ran cross country in high school in track. Always thought that was therapeutic. Didn't really do it when I was in college. Then this last year, it's been kind of a goal of mine to be in a little bit better shape. And not that I'm overweight or anything or not in bad shape, but there's just times where I feel like taking care of my body is something that I want to do and be able to have a healthy lifestyle for the rest of my life.
I'm 37 in September. I've lifted since I was probably 17, so 20 years. It's just something that's good for your health in general.
Yeah.
You went to college. Where'd you go to college at?
So I went to Iowa State University, majored in ag studies, got a minor in agronomy and AST. Was part of the AGR fraternity, so Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity. I was in that for all 4 years, then was in different various clubs, was president of our 450 Farm Ops Club, so basically ran the meetings for the 450 farm, I guess you could say. We'd meet once a week and go over what we did for the week and where each individual groups were at, all that good stuff.
You couldn't have graduated college that long ago.
Nope, 4 years. I graduated in May of 2020, so I guess 5 years.
I've known you back at the farm for 3 or 4 years already.
Yep.
The way I would describe your family, it was never just come over and do business with you guys. It always kind of felt like family. Oh, we'll just grab some lunch. There's a couple other reps out here. We'll just grab some lunch and talk about stuff other than business. And that's why I always liked stopping by your place.
We always try to make it worth everyone's while and get our business done, but then always like to chat and get caught up with what's going on in life. And it's always nice to have the business part first, but then, like you said, always just get caught back up on life, what's going on. And not everything has to be so serious and so business oriented.
Yeah. Last time I was there, I remember it was your dad, your mom was around a little bit, but you had a brother farming with you too?
And then I've got an older sister and she's off the farm, but it's just my dad, my brother, then my mom helps in the fall and the spring. She runs the field cultivator in the spring and the grain cart in the fall, and then she does all her books. So a full family affair.
Does your sister get back and help much?
A little bit. Her husband farms over in western Iowa, over by Holstein. They get back some, but they're pretty busy over there, some too.
Yeah, I want to dig into, I was thinking about this the other day. So just the farm setup. So your dad was probably farming by himself for a while before the boys came back. I'm sure you were helping out in high school. I'd like to hear how things were set up, expecting you guys to come back to the farm. Was it the plan for both brothers to come back to the farm right after college? I'm assuming your brother went to college too.
Yeah, so Ben went to Iowa Lakes Community College up in Emmitsburg, did their ag program up there. So basically like an ag studies from Iowa State. But I wouldn't say it was necessarily expected of us to come back home and farm. It was always kind of, that'd be awesome. But if you find something else, you want to go do something else, then that's your wish. And, they would support that.
Maybe expected was a bad word, but part of the plan, maybe your dad had hoped and set the farm up to be able to support you both coming back.
Yeah, for sure. Ben and I's story is a little bit different and unique, I would say, compared to maybe some others. I started farming when I was 14 years old. I rented about 10 acres of alfalfa ground. Started from there, and then one of our neighbors, he called my dad and was like, "Would you be interested in farming?" And my dad goes, "Yeah, but would you be interested in letting my son farm it?" And he goes, "Yes and no. He'd rather me be 18 when I started, but just with the way things kind of worked out and the way it worked, I picked up some ground when I was 16. And then before I graduated high school, I picked up some more ground from another neighbor just because they had watched what dad had done all throughout the summer and how the fields looked and how they kept them clean. And plus, there was some benefits from the beginning farmer that we took advantage of, programs. Got that opportunity, I guess, when I was 18. And then on Ben's side, he was just getting ready to graduate high school and picked up some ground from another landlord that we farmed around. Yeah, I'd say we're a little bit different and unique on that. We've already kind of had some of our own ground to start with and not really be still reliant on dad. I mean, get the foundation there for us and set it up. And then Ben was also feeding pigs throughout high school too. So, I mean, we had pretty good ties back home to say if we wanted to come back home and farm, we really could, but we necessarily weren't big enough, I would say, overload bearing, I guess, for my dad, that if we didn't end up coming back home and farm, I guess you could say.
Sounds pretty selfless of your dad to have high school kids interested in farming, and rather than farming the ground himself to pocket more money, giving you boys the opportunity to get a head start. That way, if you didn't want to come back from college and farm, that opportunity was there.
We probably didn't realize it right then and there, but looking back at it, we're pretty blessed and fortunate that he was even willing to say, "Hey, I'd love to farm for you guys, but both my boys, they are interested in it, and would you be interested in letting them do it?" So, cool story.
Pretty good family man there. He's probably one of the nicest guys I've ever talked to.
He can be strict and tough, but at the same time, too, he just wants to see the best out of us, and that's where you got to be.
So where I was going with this, a lot of times when you see one sibling come home, let alone two, there needs to be changes to the operation, whether that's picking up different entities, like feeding hogs, which sounds like you guys were doing that before. Were there any adjustments to the farm? Maybe not adjustments, but expansions into different entities to diversify and have the room to bring you guys back to the farm, or was that already planned in?
I would say a little bit of both. We picked up more seed corn ground, so with that, we do a little bit more custom spraying for AgriLion is who we grow for on Ogden, but we spray for them. And then we picked up some more hogs. And then Ben and I, once I graduated college and Ben was going to be a sophomore in college, we picked up some more ground between Ben and I. So kind of a little bit of both. Ben and I got some ground that we got to pick up together. And then Dad also kind of spent some more footings in the ground to help us do some more of that stuff, I guess you could say.
You guys do some trucking, right?
Yep, a little bit of trucking too. We've got one full-time guy that does local commodity hauling grain for the local elevator, and that's pretty much it. I'll haul a little bit in the summer and the winter, just depending on how caught up we are with spraying and whatnot. I'll truck all of our pigs that I can. We'll hire some of that out, but the trucking's really minimal. I wouldn't say it's a very big scope, but it's a little bit.
Looking back to when I was in college, I wasn't even farming any ground. And I think about all the weekends I gave up. And when you're telling me you're farming ground in high school and college, were you back at the farm every weekend, or did you get to enjoy college a little bit?
A little bit of both. It kind of depended on what was going on. I was pretty blessed and fortunate that Ames is only 45 minutes away. So if I needed to get home and be in the middle of the week, the way my class schedule worked out, Tuesdays and Thursdays didn't really have anything going on. So if I needed to come home after chapter on Monday and help work all day Tuesday and then go back Wednesday, I could easily do that. And even on the weekends, if there wasn't a home football game, I'd slip away and go help haul corn or combine beans or do whatever that needed to be done. But, Dad was always have fun, go enjoy college, go experience it. But if there's work to be done and you can be back home, we'd like you to be back home. Being that I had ground and some of those things, you need to take that responsibility. It's my work. It shouldn't fully be relied on my parents and my brother, but sometimes that's just what happened.
I wish I would have spent more time in Ames during college. You're young and you're so excited to go back to the farm, but it's only 4 years, man, and once it's gone.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, there's days where it's like, man, that'd be nice to go back, but then it's also, you know what? This is pretty fun too.
I thought it was best 5 years of my life.
I'd agree. Best 4 years of my life. I met some of my best friends from Iowa State and got to do some pretty cool experiences there too. So I wouldn't trade it for the world, to be honest with you.
You graduate high school and it might be different for you. You're thinking, I'm never going to see my best friends anymore. Then you get to college and you realize, man, those people I went to high school with, I had nothing in common with them. Still in touch with a few of them, but the best friends I had were from college, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree. I'm still in touch with a couple of friends from high school. And it's kind of surprising. Went to a school where I graduated with a class of 77. You think small town, rural Iowa, you'd think there'd be a lot of kids that are from farming families and farming backgrounds. And I bet there probably wasn't even more than 10. It was surprising. And most of them were daughters. They weren't even sons. I was about the only son that was from a farming family in my grade that I can remember. There was probably a couple of them that came from acreages into the little hobby farming, but families, like their parents actually farmed. It was crazy to think that rural, small town Iowa, that there would not be that many families that farm.
You had that many kids in your graduating class? Gallery's like a town of what, 150?
It's a combined school, but there's about 1,000 in Gowrie.
It's that big, huh?
We're not that small, but I would say we're a good little sized town. But we did join schools between my sophomore and junior year of high school. Otherwise, it would probably have been about 45.
What school were you combined with?
So it was Prairie Valley and Southeast Webster, and we created Southeast Valley.
What was life like in high school as a farm kid? FFA week, drive your tractor to school, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Our FFA teacher, Steve Keogh, he was a really good FFA advisor. He helped with a lot of my SAE projects. He was just really good. It was always fun. Drive your tractor to school week. It was great. Got to show off the hard work and the equipment that we got to use and all that good stuff. So it was a lot of fun.
What tractor did you get to drive?
For the 1 year, I brought my 8200 that I bought from my first landlord. So I drove that one in. So that was pretty fun. And then Dad had a 865 MT cat tractor that I drove in 1 year. And then I think I took in the big cat tractor. I'm trying to think of what else I took in. If I would have had my CDL, I probably would have taken a semi in, but I didn't have it at that point.
Did you guys have any classic tractors on the farm?
Yep. My brother restored our Farmall M, which would have been original to the family. It would have been my grandpa's brother, so it would have been our great uncle's M. And then my dad and brother bought a 1951 John Deere Model A, and Ben restored that tractor. So that one would have been quote unquote original to the farm. And then we also have a 4020 1972, I believe is the year on it. That's original. My grandpa bought brand new and we've kept it ever since. So
Couple of the most iconic tractors, the Farmall and 4020. We got a 4020 at the farm. She gets used a lot.
this one, we do a lot of baling with it. We small square bales. That's our baling tractor.
What shifter does that have on it?
Synchro, I believe. It's like the tree. So it's 1/3 reverse, and then you go back up and over, and then it's down 2/5 reverse, and then it's 4/7, and then all the way down 6/8.
Yeah, it's weird. Why don't they just do 1, 2, 3, 4? None of them have the numbers on there anymore, so you have to look at Google Images. If I haven't been back to the farm for a while, I'm like, gosh, which gear is which?
Put it in reverse and meant to go forwards. Oh no.
Some of those old tractors are confusing. My landlord, he'll let me use his Alice Chalmers. It's not that old, maybe like 80s, but it's just a weird shift pattern because they got the 1 through 4, then they have the high, medium, low, and high 1 can be way faster than low 3. And you're like, what's going on here?
Yep.
So you talked about your grandpa having a tractor. Fill us in a little bit about the family legacy. Which generation are you?
So I'd be the 5th generation.
Fifth. Really?
Ben and I are the 5th generation.
How good are you with the history?
I got to think about this now. My dad's grandpa, so where my dad lives, that's where my great grandpa grew up. And I'm trying to think. I needed to talk to him a little bit more about it because it's really cool and it's just something I need to learn more about. But so I know where my parents live now and where I grew up. That's where my great grandma and grandpa lived, and bought the acreage in the ground, and we sold some ground to where Landis is now. It's kind of a whole, I don't know, to be honest with you. Like I said, it's something I need to do a little bit more digging in and learn about. It's cool.
5th generation. I was really hoping to get your dad on here. I've never recorded a group of people from one computer. And if I learn how to do it, I think it'd be cool to sit down something like this and have, I'm sure there's situations, 3 generations. But you think about the 5 generations of the Carlson farm, just think about all the amazing years where, I don't know, 5 years ago when everybody had record yields when they weren't expecting and prices were still through the roof. And think about all the years that maybe about broke the farm. When that first conversation with Laura and hearing some of those stories, you look over the years, there's just a lot of different variables that can make or break a farm.
Yeah, and some of them you don't even expect. Like it's something that's thrown out in left field that you wouldn't expect, and it's so geez. I've been pretty blessed and fortunate that when I started and where we're at today, I've not really seen too much turbulence between volatility and some of that stuff. Whereas you go back to the 1980s, man, shoot, they were in a tough period. It's like some of them guys, they didn't even know if they could make it the next day. And being able to see that history and to learn from it, hey, what'd you do wrong? What'd you do right? Some of those things that you can ask some of these older generations. And some of it was just luck. That was just a hard time. And hopefully we never have to go through that. But the way farming is, sometime we might have to. You just got to be wise and choose where you want to spend your dollar wisely and not go too overboard or spread yourself too thin.
How old is your dad?
He is 60.
60. My dad's 68. So your dad probably would have started farming the early 90s.
Early 90s.
Has he ever talked to you about how he transitioned? Did he go to college?
He did, yeah. Grandpa did more of the livestock, so that side of it, Grandpa was pretty big into the raising cow-calf pairs and introduced the first purebred Simmental bull in the state of Iowa. So that was something Grandpa was really passionate about. But when Dad came back, he was more of the one that was trying to push more of the row crop and do some more of that stuff. And so he went to Iowa State.
He liked his winters off.
Till he got more into pigs, and then it's, winters don't ever really get a day off with livestock. At that point, he was like, yeah, I like my winters off. But he went to Iowa State, did ag business, then came back home. And like I said, he was doing about 4 or 5 different jobs. He was helping a local construction guy with some stuff. Then he was helping another farmers doing a whole bunch of spraying through the summer and basically doing about anything he could to kind of help build that base and his reputation for his work ethic and all that good stuff. Yeah.
It wasn't a sizable operation when your dad took over.
Nope. My dad was about the one that kind of just put us to where we were. Not saying that it was anything my grandpa did, but my grandpa, like I said, was more wanting to focus on the livestock. And Dad was like, you know what? I kind of want to do more row crop and we can do a whole bunch of it. And so let's see what we can do. He pretty much built it from the ground up. Pretty admirable for that. So
Thinking he was going to get rid of the livestock. Now he probably has more livestock.
lot more livestock. Not as many cow-calf pairs. We don't have any cow-calf pairs. We got feedlot cattle, but we do a lot more with the pigs.
So you got row crops, you have feedlot, you got pigs, you got seed corn. So you're pretty diversified.
Yeah, we do seed corn, seed beans, then commercial corn, commercial beans. Like I said, feed out some hogs. Hogs are all our own. We don't contract through anyone. We're independent feeders that my dad and brother are. And then same thing with the cattle. We're independent feed and then do a little bit of trucking and a little bit of spraying.
Who gets to wash out the hog pens?
So that was my job for a while, but we've gotten a little too busy for me to do that.
I'm sure you're not disappointed about being too busy for that.
No, the 2 barns that we normally have hired done, they're kind of a pain in the butt. I've washed 100 pins, so it's between the 2 barns, it's 100 pins, and I got it done within 15 or 16 hours, but I was about shot after that. And it's like, I looked at
Straight?
that as, I mean, I ate lunch and took about an hour break, but from the time we started till the time I finished, it was a long day. We'll just say that.
Just thinking now, this is the first time I ever thought about it. Is there any companies making systems to automate that process? Because it probably isn't that hard. It's probably expensive, but you'd think you'd be able to make something.
I don't know if anyone has or not. You'd have to definitely go in and flip all the feeders and make sure it was ready to do that. And the water lines, I don't know how that would work. It'd be interesting to think about. Is that something that could be feasibly done? You're not wrong. It's running a pressure washer over the surface. But to my knowledge, no one has.
They have robotic lawnmowers. Yield 360 has this big robotic pivot. It's definitely possible. Is it cost feasible? I don't know, but it'd just be a lot easier than power washing for 15 hours straight, I bet. I did that a couple times in high school. Is there any chicken farms where you're at?
Farther to the west of us, about 15, 20 miles, but nothing around us really. I never got the choices cleaning out chicken barns.
5 miles away, there's a chicken farm. and they'd pay pretty good. You'd have to go out there for 3 hours. After dark, they'd shut the lights off, and you'd have to go out there and grab 2 capons in each hand, haul them to the truck, go grab the next two. You'd do that for an hour or two, and you'd get back, and they'd have bologna sandwiches for you. You'd get $40. You wake up the next morning, your eyes would just be crusted shut. I hadn't thought about that for years. Thanks for bringing back good memories.
You bet, man.
What are some of the favorite and worst memories from younger years at the farm? You remember some of the earlier memories, like probably before you're even helping out, like handing your dad wrenches, or is there anything that kind of sticks out to you?
Oh yeah, going and riding with him to Perry when the Tyson plant in Perry was still open. I'd always like to ride with him in the semi hauling pigs and just enjoying that. That was always fun. And then anytime we could ride in the combine or the tractor after school, we get done with school and our grandma would be there because she makes us lunch and supper. And so it'd always be fun to get off the school bus, run in the house and go see grandma. And then grandma would take us out to the combine and we'd go ride if it was in the fall or at the planter in the spring. And it was just always a joy to get done with school and then be like, yeah, let's go ride with dad in the combine. So I don't know that there was ever really too many bad memories, I guess you could say. There's a lot of times where it's like things I didn't want to go do, but who was a kid and didn't want to go do some of that stuff.
Was there any traditions when you rode in the truck over to Perry, like stopping and getting a burger or milkshake?
Yeah, after we got done unloading pigs, we'd always stop at the little convenience store, grab a donut, and go home. I can remember the one time I was like, told my dad, it's like, hey, can you hold this donut for me while I get in the truck? Got in the semi and turned around, big old bite out of it. I was so mad. And it was one of them donuts that was filled with the cream filling. So it was like my favorite chocolate frosting, cream filling in the center. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Really, Dad?
It's such a small problem, but it's amazing how you remember some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I remember you talked about your grandma taking you out to ride in the combine. I remember some of the earlier rides in the combine. I must have been 6, 8, and my dad didn't even have a combine at this time. I think he was hiring it out. But I remember sneaking out of the basement, and it was pitch black. We have this big windbreak, then we have the back 80, and I walked across the farm. Now I'm running through the field, pitch black, and I remember the guy just caught me out of the lights on the combine, and he was mad because lights probably weren't that good back then, and he's focusing on the rows, and there's this 6-year-old kid running across the field. How bad would it have been if he ran me through the head? It probably would have ruined his life.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been good.
People who didn't grow up on a farm don't realize some of the memories you have, good or bad.
I can remember too, there was another night. It was my sister, my brother, and I. When you walk out of my parents' house to the south, there's this old apple tree. My parents were on our farthest south hog barn loading pigs out, and they must have saw a skunk or something. But we all heard when we were sleeping, could hear like banging noise. And it's just like, what is going on? So we all walked outside in our pajamas and we're watching my mom and my dad try to shoot these 2 skunks because they were running underneath the foundation. And my parents were coming back up to the yard and they looked over and we scared them because there's just 3 kids sitting in this tree. And they're like, what are you guys doing up? Oh my gosh. They're like, we heard noise.
They're out there trying to shoot with a gun and you guys are sitting in the tree?
Yeah. We're just sitting there watching like, what is going on? Oh, it was so funny.
I bet their stomachs probably dropped. They're out there laying aim at this skunk and
Yeah.
had no idea you were sitting there. Were you at least up in the tree?
We're up in the tree, but where the tree sits to that hog barn, we're probably a good 400 yards away. I mean, we weren't anywhere close to them, but we could see from where we were sitting, just watching them. It's like, oh, that's neat. And they just came walking back up to the house, and it's like they could hear a noise, and they're like, what the heck?
Did you and your siblings ever get in trouble at the farm?
Oh, yeah. We'd always get in trouble, whether it was just screwing around. Church was a big one. We'd be at church, and it was always funny. My brother, it'd be during the middle of the sermon, and my brother would be kind of talking. My dad would just look over and be like, all right, you guys got to be quiet. This is the point where you need to be quiet. You can be loud any other time, just not during the sermon. And we were never really too loud, but my sister and I finally got to the point where it's, okay, we know we need to be quiet. And my brother would just be sitting there talking, and we'd look over at him and be like, dude, be quiet, please. We don't want to be in trouble. Of course, we'd all get in trouble. So we'd all go back home, and then our punishment was to sit in timeout staring at the wall. So we'd literally sit in the same room, just on a chair staring at the wall. And that was kind of our in trouble moments. And Ben would sit there and talk to himself, and they'd be talking to Hannah and I, and it's like, Ben, you got to be quiet, dude. The more you be quiet, the sooner you can get off this chair and go do whatever you want. But no, he would just sit there and talk, and it's like, dude.
Man, you guys must have overcorrected him. When I was at the farm, he didn't say a word.
Yeah, he gets to be pretty beside himself. I think high school, he never really wanted to go do stuff. He was more, I want to sit at home and work on tractors, work on engines. My parents were like, you need to do sports and be social and stuff like that. And Ben was like, nah, I just like to be home. Let's go work on something and go farm. And unless you get to know him, if he's very personable and like you've built that relationship, he won't shut up sometimes.
Is he still kind of the same way? He doesn't like to leave the house?
Yeah, I would say so. I finally moved, so he's really happy about that. So he's not living with my parents anymore. And I moved this spring, so like right before planting. We got done moving into my house about 5 o'clock. We got back to my parents' house, and my brother's upstairs in his room packing clothes. He's like, I am out of here. My mom goes, you don't have to leave today. Ben goes, nope, I am out. I am leaving. See you later.
Is he living with you?
No, so he lives where I used to live in my old house. My parents have an acreage just west of town that we've got a lot of our pigs and cattle at. And so that's where I was living since I graduated. Then once I moved and then bought this acreage, Ben moved over there. He's waiting for his best friend from high school to move in with him, and he'll be set. They'll be bachelor padding it up.
I think about this all the time. If I'm ever a parent and have kids in high school, you want to not have them drink and have fun, but at the same time, they're probably going to do it anyways. So what's the fine line of trying to get them to not go out and party, but still making them feel comfortable where if they go out and party and need a ride home, they're actually going to call you instead of being dumb and driving home?
I don't know. For us, me personally, I was in 4 different sports, so I was busy with that. But then that was also on the school board. And so my thought was if I ever get caught drinking, that just wouldn't be good. And I don't need my dad to be mad or the rest of the school board. Plus, my parents don't drink a whole lot. Now, Ben and I, we used to drink, but growing up, it was never really a big thing in our house. So I don't know. I think some of that's maybe some of the circumstances. I mean, just the experiences, the way you grow up and the way your parents are. But yeah, I don't know. I would rather have my kids, if I ever have any, to call me first than to drive home. Yeah, that's not a good option. So.
I don't think I ever drank until college too. And if there's any of my customers listen, I definitely didn't drink till I was 21, but it was just something to do at the small school. We barely had enough people to fill out a football roster, and I think you're just afraid of letting the teammates down.
It's just a small town pride. I don't know that you could probably have that in any school, and it's maybe just the flow of kids too. It's interesting to think about, but a lot of kids I ran around with didn't drink, and so I mean that was just kind of the circumstance or just the culture I was in. I mean, none of the kids really drank when I was in school, and now there was kids that drank, but the ones I hung out with never really did. You know, I think some of it's just the kids you run around with too.
I don't think I touched a alcoholic beverage till I was out of high school. I was too busy working at the farm.
Summers we'd be doing weightlifting and sprint training, and then I'd go home and bail. That's basically all I did. Or I'd be working with our 4-H calves and doing that stuff. It was always something to do, and I never really found time.
You probably never got to experience Visha, did you?
That was 2 or 3 years before I got there that it was canceled. I think it was like 13. Was it canceled on 13 or 14? I started college in 16, so I mean, I was about 2 years away.
I graduated in 12. I'm sure it was there a year after. And it was as wild as they say it was. You'd be going out on a Tuesday night during Visha, I think that's what it's called, and it would just be packed to the rim. Every backyard was packed on a Tuesday night. It was nothing like I'd ever seen before. On Friday or Saturday night of Visha, and if you're going into the bar, you better be prepared for 2 hours to get in. It was that many people.
Jeez, that's crazy.
The town just couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
I want to touch on this. You talked about your grandpa having what you said first Simmental.
First purebred Simmental bull in the state of Iowa.
So were you into showing livestock in high school?
Yeah, we showed cattle all throughout since I could start, basically. And my sister showed, and then my dad showed. It was just in us to show. So we showed some sheep, but we got smart and decided, no, we didn't like showing sheep, so we just stuck to cattle. So
they're not very wild, but they're pretty stubborn, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Okay, we're going to have to drag you along. Okay, buddy, if you just move your feet, life would be a lot easier. But cattle can be pretty stubborn, too.
And wild. I was at my niece's show, and the steer's tame as could be, but as soon as they got in the ring, she's 13. It just took her for a ride. 2 years ago, she probably would have just said, I'm done. But she kept going back for that leash and getting drug around. So pretty impressive to see.
Oh, yeah. The determination's kind of cool. You can work with a calf as long as you want and for as much as you want. and the slightest thing can spook it. Some things you can't control.
Was the county fair where you're at pretty competitive in terms of the cattle show?
Yeah, growing up, we had 4 different families that would do a lot of showing. We would travel all over the state and even into Nebraska. And I mean, we got all over the place. We showed about 12 to 13 different shows a year and would start in December and would go till basically about the same time. County Fair was always pretty competitive with the steer show.
You were going to that many shows?
Uh-huh.
A lot of people do that. It's not something I think my family, not well, my brother and my dad, they're the ones farming, realizing it's not something where you can just go pick something off the feedlot and compete.
Yeah, and it's getting that way with the pigs too. It's about any animal. You can't just go out into the normal operation where they're feeding pigs or lambs. There's a specific knack for it, and it sucks because you'd like to get a lot more people to do it, but you wouldn't have to go blue crazy on it.
It's definitely a good learning experience.
It's a good week to go spend time with kids that you don't get to see during the summer and that you've made friends with, whether they're in your grade or not, or above or below. I've always been a big advocate for 4-H and FFA. I think they're just two really good organizations that you can be a part of.
A lot of those livestock shows, I was telling my nephew the other day, he probably wouldn't have won with any judge just because they weren't at that level, but you could have 10 different judges in a big show and have 7, 8, or 10 different grand champions. All depends on the judge.
Yep, for sure. There's judges that definitely like them a certain way, and it was that way when I was showing. Whether it was county fair, state fair, whether it was an open show, we go there and be like, okay, we think this judge kind of likes more of the style that we're bringing, and so hopefully he does. But if he doesn't, that's just one man's opinion that day. It's not like it's going to be the end all be all.
So do the kids get to spend the nights at the county fair? I know some counties have guard duty. The kids get to ride horses around. Is there any of that at your county fair?
No, our fair board does that, so they'll go around until like midnight, I think. But the kids can stay in campers if their parents have campers up there and stuff like that. But we don't do any of that stuff.
Good camaraderie for the kids. Kind of a little getaway from the farm. So you're on the county fair board. So it sounds like you're kind of a community man, or is it mainly just the fair?
No, and I'm not on the fair board. I'm just a swine superintendent. But yeah, I'm community oriented. I'm a part of our G3G, which is our gallery growth group. It used to be the JCs. So in the winter times, we put on a couple basketball tournaments. Our big event, we put on a street dance for the 3rd of July right in town.
Oh, street dance. I thought you said streak.
No, street. Street.
We're going streaking.
Yeah. No, so we do a street dance on the 3rd of July. We've done that. This is like our 15th year as the G3G. I'm also on our volunteer fire department.
I was never a part of a volunteer fire department. Do you get out on a lot of calls?
Depends, not necessarily. Being rural, we're pretty fortunate that we don't have too many calls. But the week of the 4th, we had 3 calls. We were called to a garage fire that thankfully no one was hurt. The building burnt down though, which kind of sucks. But at the same time, we're just thankful that no one got hurt. And then was another shed fire that was electrical, and the same way, no one got hurt, and we got it put out pretty quickly. So the building's not at a loss, but they'll have some smoke damage. And then on the 3rd of July, we got paged. It's weird. If your phone gets thrown or it hits the ground very forcefully, it'll call 911.
Crash detection.
Yeah, pretty much. But it called 911, and what happened is this guy just left his phone on this truck and it fell off, and that's how we got paged. But we were paged to that call. And I mean, those are the 3 that we got called to, but usually it's nothing too major. I mean, mainly car crashes is what we get, which kind of stinks, but
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
we're just in an area. I mean, you get up towards Calendar and Highway 169. There's just an intersection there that there's accidents. Thankfully, we haven't had one for a year maybe now, but it's more, like I said, car accidents than really anything, which can be good and can be bad. I've come up on some pretty bad ones and come up on some ones where, geez, you guys are pretty lucky to be alive. So
I've always kind of wondered where the fire department fits in here. You would think it'd be like the EMT. Is it because you have more capability for the equipment needed, or is that just how it is everywhere?
on the car crashes, you mean?
Yeah, because it seems like the fire departments are always a big part of those car accidents.
We got pretty good tools. The jaws of life is one. Basically, when we're doing some of that stuff, the EMT is there to help make sure that the patient's okay, but If it's a pretty bad crash and the roof's caved in and the person's basically lodged in the car, they're not going to be able to cut through any of that stuff with any of the tools that they have. So the fire department gets paid. Plus, the car gets set on fire, so then you would need water there anyway. There's a lot of moving parts that we're there for to basically make sure that everything's okay and to help get the patient out.
So that's standard protocol to be called to every crash.
Yep. For us, anyways. Other departments, it could be different, but for us, if there's a car accident, the ambulance is paged and we're called out too. So whether they need us or not, it's just good for us to be there in case something happens.
And it's been a year since you've had a crash, huh?
And I probably jinxed myself and we'll have one, but
Knock on wood.
yeah, knock on wood.
For as many accidents that happen, that's a long time.
We're pretty lucky right now that we haven't had anything too serious. One of the worst ones I came up on, this lady ran this intersection and hit a anhydrous tanker truck. She's lucky to be alive. She had some broken bones and stuff, but she's lucky she didn't have her kids in there, because if she would have had her kids in there, those two probably would not have made it. I mean, we cut the whole roof open. It was like, geez, crazy.
So did she hit it perpendicular or from the back?
So the truck was going north and she was coming from the east to the west. We don't know if she had a seizure or because she's from Colorado. And so we didn't know if she just didn't really know the area that well or if she had a seizure or kind of what happened. But from the medical side of it, she was kind of out of it. And she went right in front of the semi. The semi clipped her back end, spun her around. How she didn't go underneath the trailer is surprising, but spun her back around, basically made a big U back to the way she was coming and was in the ditch.
I was thinking you're talking about the tanks they actually use in the field. This was a full semi-tanker.
Yep. And he ended up in the west side ditch, still facing north, but he was on the west side of the road and she was back on the east side in the opposite ditch. Yeah. 169 was kind of crazy. We had live flight and everything. She was pretty lucky to be alive. So
Do you see a lot of farm accidents or hear about them through the fire department?
right before I got on, we had one really bad farm accident. This gentleman was cleaning out horse stalls with the skid loader, and it was an older skid loader, so it didn't have any of the safety features on. So like in the skid loaders today, you have to lift up a safety seat belt basically for you to do anything. And the bucket came down on him, and that was not good. That was pretty tough for the community. A lot of people knew him and touched a lot of lives, and it was just kind of a sad deal. But that's about the only bad thing that I really heard for farming accidents. We've been blessed that not too many bad ones. So
Is there any situations at the farm, looking back, like maybe seeing your dad do something or your brother doing something like, oh my God, that could have been so bad? Because I can think of a few from the farm.
yep. So just this past year, my brother's pretty lucky. We had just finished soybeans, and I had gotten back from a friend's wedding and was helping clean out a cattle lot. And my dad and brother were up north, and my mom was there too. That Ben was bringing a bean head home, and at a T intersection, there's a dredge ditch on one of the farms. And so he was getting ready to turn back to the west and just went straight off the dredge ditch. And he's pretty lucky. He had the safety chains on and the straps tied down on the bean head, because if that wouldn't have happened, it probably would have been over top of the pickup. It was kind of an ordeal.
Say that again. He is pulling a bean head with the truck.
Yep, with the dad's extended cab pickup, was going to turn, said the steering wheel locked up, couldn't turn left or right, brakes weren't doing anything, and just went right over the dredge ditch. And it snapped the hitch receiver in half. So like where the pin usually sits, where the hole is, it basically was just half a hole. And the safety chains that you usually hook up on any trailer, that's what was holding the tie.
They pull hard.
Oh yeah. And the two straps that he had tied down on the actual bean head, like, that saved him too, because the whole platform where it was sitting shifted about a whole foot. I got there, I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, I can't imagine being your dad. You can't be mad about it. You gotta be thankful that they're okay, but at the same time, it's like, man, my bean head. But in that situation, I know any parent would just be thankful. I know one of my good friends, it wasn't him, his younger brother. He might have been in high school at the time. It's one of those situations where he was driving, I think it was a grain car and tractor, blinkers on, turning left, and somebody passed him and just destroyed the equipment right as he's pulling in the farm drive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can hear a lot of those. From where my parents live, we get onto Highway 175, and it sucks. You go a mile back to the east, and you come up over a hill and go down, and it's like, you always hate turning left or going back north, because if you don't pay attention, it's like you could possibly hit someone, or if they're not paying attention. definitely needs to be some caution when driving big equipment, and people just need to slow down and take their time.
It's hard to have cameras on all your equipment, but I finally talked my dad into putting some cameras like on the feed truck because this was when my niece and nephew were 5 or 6, and my dad's getting a little old and senile, a lot of stuff on his mind.
Yep.
He's ran into the shop door a couple times before it's all the way open. And it's nice having it on the back of the combine and the grain cart. If you could have it on every piece of equipment you can't see behind you, it's probably worth it.
Yeah, our two planters have it, and the grain cart does too. Our sprayers got it. Our combines don't, which we go through our field around my parents' house because it can easily get us onto the gravel road if we have to go that way. But yeah, no, the cameras are really helpful. It just makes it a lot easier, and you can see behind you.
It's still nice to have on gravel roads if you're in the middle and you need to get over. So what we did, and it works nice on the grain cart too, if you put it on the auger just right, when it's folded, you can see behind you. And when it's up, you can see down where you're dumping corn for both the combine and the grain cart. So dual purpose.
For sure, yeah.
Safety gets overlooked at the farm way too much.
Yeah, definitely for sure. There's times where it's like, why are we doing it this way? This could be a lot safer. Whether it's dad with anhydrous, and I've gotten to the point where I just wear a mask. I've got a full 3M shield mask. I don't need to breathe this crap in and make myself cough to it, where dad's just like, well, I'm going to stand upwind and we'll do it that way. I've gotten to wear the mask some, but it's like that is just something where it's like that. Why even take the chance with it?
The last couple of years have taught me anything. It's the whole, it'll never happen to me until it happens to me. Like I went through a year stretch where, I don't know if you remember, I rolled that company vehicle after I had it on order for a year. And then 6 months later, I had like a seizure at Shields. I think it was a sugar crash or something. And a couple months later, gun blew up in my hand. I had never had any incidents, never even broken a bone, had stitches once in my life. And then all of a sudden, within a year, crap hit the fan. It'll happen to anybody.
Yeah, that's definitely not a mindset to be in. You just always got to take your time and slow down and be like, it could happen to me at any point.
I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently when my younger brother was just old enough to figure out what the levers are on the skid loader, 4, 5, maybe he had sat on dad's lap for a couple times, but apparently my dad was using the old white bags to dump beans in a wagon, and he is up there, so he must have had his head up above the wagon, so in between the tines, and the skid loader was rolling before they had that lift, and he got where he couldn't get his head down. My brother was 4 or 5 at the time and had been just educated enough where he knew to back it up, but if he wasn't there, would have been a bad deal. But can you imagine relying on a 4 or 5-year-old to run that piece of equipment to get your head out?
Yeah, just crazy to think. Yeah, he's lucky that your brother was there and had the knowledge that, hey, this is what happens when I move the sticks back or forward. Or, yeah, no, that's crazy.
Good thing my dad was nice to him that day. I'm sure your dad has plenty of good stories. So we'll go in a different direction here. Reading off the script here.
There we go.
You obviously went back to the farm after college, and it's probably going to be hard for you to think about. If you weren't back at the farm, what's something else you'd want to do?
I'd still say I'd probably be in the ag industry, but what I would do, I'm not 100% sure. I do like the data side or like the precision side, whether it be like flying drones and scouting fields or being on a computer on the backside working and extract weight and data. I think that would be something that I'd maybe more or less be into or doing, or sitting in a semi hauling pigs, hauling grain. That's always something, and it's kind of ag related. I've always thought about doing something like that too if this doesn't work out.
I don't think you guys have anything to worry about. I was going to ask you, was your dad always into technology? You guys are very technical, like very analytical. Was that him always, or is that something you brought back from college?
A little bit of both. I would say dad was for sure open to it, and that's made it really easy to help implement some of this stuff. But like he was mapping when the first brown box came out. We mapped everything, whether it was just tile lines, whether it was manure maps, whether it was, I don't even remember what else you could map with that thing, to be honest with you. But
Not much.
yeah, since 2006, when we could start, we've got maps from all the way back then. Him being open and able to do some of that stuff has been really easy, but then using AutoPads, doing work planner, setting all this stuff up and recording boundaries and making sure that all that stuff works for John Deere Operations Center with the planters and the sprayer and all that good stuff. And that's been more of my thing. And if we have problems or if he has problems, I can pull it up on my phone and be like, okay, yeah, you need to go to this page, or you got to go back and see it from my phone and basically walk them through it. So that's been really nice so that we're all on the same page and can do stuff.
You mentioned 2006 or whatever, you had the yield maps before you got back to the farm. And I see this a lot with farmers. Was he doing stuff with the yield maps, or he just wanted the painted maps?
I think it was more just painted maps, just to be able to visualize it, I think more or less. Granted, it would help him decide what he would maybe plan for the next year, but he wasn't really sitting down, digging into the weeds and the nitty gritties of it and saying, oh, why is this spot red? Is it because we had too much rain, or is it not enough nitrogen, or I didn't spray a fungicide, or whatever the case may be. But he would use it some to help make a guesstimate for next year, but it wasn't very scientific or very in-depth in it.
Something I've noticed with farmers, and there's definitely different types, but my dad, for example, I don't know if he's ever sat at a computer. He has an iPad now. And I remember when I first got my first smartphone, you guys are wasting so much time. And all of a sudden it's, hey, what's the weather look like? Now he's on his phone more than I am. But what I'm trying to get at is most of these guys have all the stuff out there collecting data. They look at the maps like, oh, but they don't go in and fix their data. I've always heard that a really good business type farmer should probably spend an hour a day at their computer.
Yeah.
Dad pretty good about that, or is he just kind of let you take care of it?
He does some of it. We need to basically be a little bit more better at that too. You can always improve, and that's something you should strive to do. I mean, you can't come complacent, otherwise you're just going to be left behind. But you get done from a long day of being outside, and it's not like I got to sit down and do an hour of looking at, okay, this is what we sprayed today, or going back to yield maps. And a lot of that work can be done during the winter time, and you just got to set it down and make it priority. But I would say between both of us, that's something that we don't utilize as much as we should.
I would be the same way. Like even working on my house, last thing I want to do is like get at the computer. But if it were me, getting up early and doing it first thing in the morning would probably be the best. But I wouldn't be any better than you. I can guarantee you that.
It's just something that you got to set time for and make it a priority. It's that way with anything in life. If you don't set aside time or make it a priority, it's probably not going to get done. And that's whether it's maintaining the combines, whether it's checking fields during the day.
You have to like set aside time for it.
Yep. Or whether it's looking at markets, it's anything in life. You just got to make time for it. Yeah.
Farmers don't like to sit still. Remember what GPS your dad started off, your first auto steer?
Yeah, it was the Green Star. It was a GS2.
Hydraulic?
No, it wouldn't have been hydraulic. It would have been, gosh dang it. So I put it in my 8200. It was like an easy steer, basically.
Was it the one that had the little knob and a big motor and
it was the other style. So it could have been hydraulic, but it didn't have the knob because it kind of ran through the tractor. I've got a button that I can push on it and it'll do it. So it might be hydraulic, to be honest with you.
It probably was. You'd know it if it was the other system because the steering wheel would be going like this.
We didn't have, no.
You guys jumped right into the good stuff. I was in high school, so 2005 or 6 was his first auto steer GPS, and it ran off a little cell phone is all it did, a little PDA. Isn't it amazing how fast technology goes? I always say it's exponential because the more technology you have, the faster you can create it because technology creates technology. Just look how fast ChatGPT is learning itself.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's crazy.
So what part of the farm gives you the most pride? Is it just being part of the 5 generations?
Yeah, I'd say so. Being able to carry on that legacy, being able to work with my parents and my brother, doing a lifestyle that not very many people can say that they get to do. And then just being able to produce a crop and then put it out into the market and being able to produce a whole bunch of different products within the corn and soybean aspect of it, as well as just producing the nutrition and protein that people need to sustain their lives.
So I'm going to test you with a tough question here.
Oh boy.
I don't know if you've thought about this or not, but and I'm not trying to like burst your pokey here, but you and your brother are both farming full time. I haven't got to experience it. I've seen a lot of brothers farm together. Do you have a plan, or is your dad working with you on a plan to put you both in a good path for success in terms of, okay, this is your core responsibility, this is your core responsibility, because it's tough farming with your brother.
Yeah, it's very tough. You got different dynamics, and I would say we work through it pretty well. But those days where, if Ben or I don't speak up and we feel something that needs to be addressed isn't addressed and you just let it sit there, it can really deteriorate that family dynamic. And I would say that Ben and I have a pretty good understanding that he's very mechanically driven. He loves to work on equipment. I can do it. I just don't find that as enjoyable as Ben. I can do the basic maintenance, greasing and checking tires and making sure all the fluid levels are all correct. But when it comes to, oh, that motor needs to be rebuilt or replaced, you give it to Ben and he finds a way and gets it done. Whereas I'm more of I can do technology, I can get the guidance line set up, share data, do all that kind of stuff. And so we've separated ourselves that way and gave ourselves those roles, but that kind of makes it all come together too. He gets to be okay, no, this is what we're all going to do today. And not that he does that every day, but he's been doing it for 40 years. I mean, he's done it his whole life. So he's got a very vast knowledge of what needs to be done day to day and how to keep things moving.
I'm no expert, but it sounds like you got different area of interest where that'll ease that. But you guys are pretty calm people compared to my family, so I think you guys will be all right.
Yeah, we've got our days and our moments, but yeah, no, for sure. You definitely have to look at it as a business, and whether that's right, wrong, otherwise, it does come down to a business. At the end of the day, that's what your livelihood comes off of. If you don't look at it as a business and you do get kind of lackadaisical, things can start up. And that's something that both Ben and I both need to get better at. We're not perfect and no one's perfect. Like I've said, you just got to continue to try and be better and just take one day at a time.
Yeah, I think my younger brother is probably going to farm full time with my older brother sometime soon, and I really hope they figure it out. You got to have a good plan in place in order for it to work, but I have a lot of faith you guys will be able to make it work.
We do too. We hope so anyways, but you do have to come at it with some humility. There's times where I'm going to be wrong and I'm going to have to come back and say, you know what, Ben, that plan was wrong, or I was wrong. I was in the wrong. And there's going to be times where he's going to be the same way. It's just something that you definitely got to take with a grain of salt, try and work together and figure it out.
Have you had any of those conversations about the succession plan with your dad?
Yep. So we've started some of it. We don't got a very good plan yet in place.
You're ahead of most people if you've talked about it.
We've had a couple times where we sat through an Iowa State extension outreach program basically to talk about succession planning. And then Ben and I have been through a couple different meetings just between Ben and myself and a bunch of other farmers in the groups that we were there. But we've been to a couple different conferences where they've talked about some of that stuff. And we've sat through meetings on that and have come away with some good ideas. And we're at a point now where we want to make it so that we can keep everyone together and be the best for everyone at this point in stage in life. But at the same time, 10 years from now is like really going to be the same thing that we need. So we want to make it so that it's something that can easily be maneuvered and changed if we need to.
It's a long process. It's not something you can just decide to retire one day and move on.
Right. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be handed down. And then with a sister that doesn't farm with us, that's another aspect we got to manage and keep expectations with her. Her expectations within Rome is something that it's another dynamic that you're just going to have to work through and figure out. Yeah, for sure.
How do you see your dad handing over the reins? You think it's just going to be one day, I'm done, going to be a slow transition, or he's going to retire and still want to make some decisions? He just doesn't want to pass all the money around anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see it about three different ways. I could see there being one day where he's, you know what, I'm tired of this. I don't want to do it anymore, but still enjoy it. I could see him working until he basically passes away and still having his hand in the pie, whether it's making good decisions or not, probably not, but still being able to be a part of it. I don't think he wants to ever really be done with it and cut off cold turkey, but he wants to retire and be able to enjoy life with my mom and go travel and do some stuff, which they've started to do more and more, which is good. I mean, Ben and I need to take over more responsibility and can hold the fort down while they go do stuff. So.
Was he pretty good about traveling before recently, like when you guys were kids, or was it always work?
I would say it's more work. We'd go on some family vacations, but we didn't go on one every year. Just this past year, they started to do a lot more stuff, which is good. I think they're getting to that point. Our CPA, she always harps on my dad that you need to stop doing so much and you need to let the boys start taking some stuff over and just take a step back from that. And he's starting to listen some, but this is his passion. This is what he loves to do. It's hard for you to give something up that you love doing.
Time goes by fast. I don't travel enough. I don't go on trips, but I'm going to regret it someday. You don't have to wait till you're old to go on trips.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. That's always one thing he said too. We'll go golf during the week because we're part of our men's league for golf. And he goes, I don't have very many hobbies. I never really found very many hobbies. You guys enjoy doing this. It's something you like doing. Go do it. Now, there are times where he's grumpy and mad because we don't stay in health, of course. But he does say, you've got hobbies, go do stuff. Like work will be there.
So you're saying your dad, you said he didn't have much hobbies. Is that what you said?
Pretty much. He had hobbies, but his hobbies were he played sports in high school. So he played football. He was really good at football. But after that, it was mainly just work. And that's kind of how my grandpa was. My grandpa was like, I don't care for doing any of those extra activities. I don't need to fish. I don't need to hunt. I don't need to go sit at a lake house. I don't need to go camping. I don't need to do any of that stuff. I just like to sit and farm. And so my dad got, I would say, a lot of that from my grandpa. He really enjoys farming, but he doesn't have a whole lot of hobbies where he likes to go do stuff. And I would say that's something that Ben and I have really tried to do. We both like to snowboard. He likes to fish. I like to fish. I mean, we found hobbies that we like to go do and try to get away to take some stress off our minds for a little bit. Yeah.
My dad, when I was looking for a different job, he said something that'll stick with me forever. He said, life's pretty long. Find something that you enjoy doing. I got to thinking, life's pretty long. I don't think so, man. If that's how you think about life, you must not enjoy it that much because, God, life goes by so fast.
It does. And it feels like yesterday I was still in college and I'd not even lived a very long life. But yeah, for sure.
I don't have any kids, but I've seen my niece and nephew. I remember holding her like a week after she's born, and she's getting ready to turn 13, or she's 13, getting ready to turn 14. So if I ever have kids, it's easy to get caught up in the moments, but I hope I'm in a good spot where I can actually like cherish the moments with them, and you get so focused about other stuff. But maybe someday I'll have kids. I'm getting kind of old, man.
You'll have kids. You'll find someone, yeah.
You got a woman, don't you?
Yep.
How long you been with her?
So we had been 2 years since June 16th. So
there you go. Where'd you meet her at?
So the seed corn company we grew seed corn for, she worked there. So that's how we met.
There you go. She probably approached you, right?
Or like my dog.
Oh, I see how it is. I'm just
gonna
gonna take my dog to this seed corn meeting.
She actually came out to the house because she was picking up stuff, and Bella, my dog, was going crazy, running all fast or whatever. She's a golden retriever, so we call her. She has the zoomies. She was being a spaz or whatnot, and so that sparked.
Did it spark right away, or was it awkward?
It was a little awkward. Over time, it grew.
She started visiting the farm a little more.
Sure.
I'm glad it worked out for you, man. That's good.
It's going good.
We'll kind of move towards wrapping this up. Did you listen to that first episode? Did you catch the last part, what we finished on?
I don't remember off the top of my head now that I think about it, but was she asking a question? Was that the gist of it?
We're going to wrap up each episode with Pass the Mic. You'll answer the question that Quint asked before and come up with the question for the next person. So don't worry, I can cut some of this stuff out if you need some time to think. The question he gave me probably isn't the best fit for you, but maybe it is. Do you guys have any on-farm help besides you guys?
One full-time person and then a couple part-time guys.
Okay, so his question was something about encouraging employees. How are you encouraging your employees to not only get more involved with ag or whatever? Maybe it's they're temporary and they're going to go do something full-time after this part-time college gig or something like that. How are you putting them in a better position to grow in ag?
Yeah, that's a tough one because the one truck driver that drives for us, he was always part of ag. He ran a Landis location before he even came and drove for us. So he's been part of ag, and a couple other guys that help us are part of the ag community. We're in a kind of a unique position where we don't necessarily have a whole lot of employees and ways to push them to
develop as employees. Oh, okay, I'm going to adjust this for your situation. What are you doing to encourage your employees to be a better person after they're on the farm than what they were before they got to you?
I would say Overall, like just our demeanor and how we approach life, being grateful. Faith is a big part of our family. God wants us to be good stewards of the land and then be good to our neighbors and to treat people the way you want to be treated. So just going at life, being a good person, down to earth person, I guess you could say. I try not to get too worked up over the little things and try being a helping hand whenever you can. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. I would say for us, it's more or less just being good to society and being able to give back and
I would say family atmosphere is a good way to describe it.
to welcome them in. But definitely welcome in like they're one of our own. It is a family business, but we do treat everyone like they're a part of our family. You help us do something that we love, we appreciate it. So
Definitely something I noticed spending some time at the farm. So your turn to come up with a question for the next guest. And if you have to think about it a little bit, no worries, I can cut it out.
do you have an idea that you're going to ask next?
Give me 1 second.
Just so I know if they're an older generation or a younger generation.
Nope, it is. Unless somebody schedules between now and next Monday, I think he'd be about same situation as you. He might be a little bit older, but I haven't really asked him. But talking to him, he's probably in that situation where he's been farming full time and maybe his dad's transitioning out or something like that, or maybe his dad recently did. That's the impression I got from him.
I was trying to think. I was kind of hoping it was someone older so I could ask him a question about, hey, you've seen all this stuff within the farming community. What's one thing that's really changed? And I guess you could use it for him too. Growing up from when you started to where you're at now, what's one of the biggest things that you've seen changed in the farming community, whether that's technology, whether that's just to trying to be an advocate for ag, whether that's the disparity between people that live in the cities and the ag community? What's one of the biggest things that you've seen change throughout the ag community? We'll go with that.
That will be perfect. I'll make you sound good.
I appreciate you doing this and even thinking of me to be a part of it. You didn't have to do that for sure, and I just appreciate it. So
I like the family culture at the Carlson farms.
you bet. That's the way we like to do it.